Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Divinely Crowned Conversations podcast. I am your girl, Divina, and I am so grateful that you decided to tune into this episode of the Divinely Crowned Conversations podcast. Before we get into this episode, I just, like I always do, want to make sure to remind you guys to like this video, share this video, interact with us in the comments. You know that I like to have you guys comment and we like to comment back. So make sure you are engaging with us, and also make sure you are subscribing to the podcast on Apple and Spotify, and make sure you are on DivinelyCROWN'D.com, as well as following Divinely Crowned on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Y'all, all you have to do is put Divinely Crowned in the Google search, and you will see us everywhere. Also, just some reminders. I like to always remind too that I am currently taking new coaching clients. So I also have a summer special. So if you are ready to get on your self-love journey or just enhance your self-love journey, make sure to DM me and we can set up a connect conversation. Also, remember, I just launched my digital bundle, my self-love digital bundle. You can get that right now for only $37. So you better get it while it's hot. And as well as, don't forget, August 11th, if you are in Erie, I am volunteering with the Safe Net Summer Event Garden Party. The tickets are on sale now, so I would love to see some of my people there. So get your tickets. You can go to the SafeNet website and get those tickets. But all those announcements, look, y'all, I'm getting better at my announcements, okay? But yes, so after all those announcements, it is time to introduce my divine guest tonight. I know her as DivinelyCROWN'D, but she is now going by Raye Shurice, okay? And so I would love for her to introduce herself, and we're going to get into this Divinely Crowned conversation. So why don't you introduce yourself to the people?
Hi, guys. My name is DivinelyCROWN'D, or Raye, and I am a plethora of things. Entrepreneur. I work in recruiting and talent acquisition, and I do all kinds of coaching and mentoring and
Nice.
Nothing for on paper and paid yet, but people are definitely using my services.
I love it. Listen, it's okay. It's a process for sure.
Yes.
So, and we're definitely going to get deeper into, the conversation, but I always like to share how I know my divine guests. So I was like sitting here like, okay, I believe the first time I ever met you was through our moms worked at Walmart together. Yes. And I was like, no, it wasn't just the cousins, but it was our moms worked at Walmart years ago. So I was like, yeah, so we've known each other for some years. And as well as you are cousins with my kids. Yeah, my kids. So yes. So we've grown up a little bit together, connected. Definitely been at events and things together. So I'm excited to have you on tonight.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes. So Divinely Crowned is all about, where we come from, where we're at, where we're going. So I always like to start at the beginning. So you're from Erie. I know you don't live here now, which we'll get into, but tell me what we're going to say DivinelyCROWN'D, okay? Because we're going to go through the evolution of, going into Raye Shurice. So tell me about what young DivinelyCROWN'D was like.
She was lit, okay?
Okay.
and that is in so many facets of the word. Super, super ambitious. As a teenager, I went to Central, was a medical assistant. Trade, ended up working at St. Vincent in my junior year and stayed there for 7 years throughout college and all of that. I was on the pre-med track and had plans of being a doctor in the military. I actually went to the Air Force right out of high school.
I do remember that.
And got discharged shortly after that.
Oh my God.
Unexpectedly. And that is just a tip of the iceberg of what life has been.
Okay. Tip of the iceberg. So let's go back to this young, let's talk about young little girl DeJaRaye. So like, what was your, family dynamic? Like, who were you before all these things happened?
Yeah, I think I was, a child that had experienced a lot of heartache and challenges early on in life, but still had a lot of joy in me, despite the fact. So I'm the first grandchild.
Okay.
I'm the oldest child of both my mom and my dad's kids.
Okay.
And so, I spent like the first 5 years just basking in the glory of like, being the only one. I think it was 5 years. I can't remember. I don't know how behind Dejana is my first cousin.
Okay, yes.
And she is the next grandchild.
Okay.
So I don't know how far apart we are in age, but it was about 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And so my mom and my dad, they were 16.
Wow.
When they had me.
Wow.
So very young parents.
Yeah.
And I just through different challenges ended up in foster care with my sisters.
Okay.
And ended up in my grandparents. They ended up taking us in when I was 10. And that's when I moved to Erie.
Okay.
Like back to Erie because I was born here and then moved away for a little bit. And so moved back when I was 10 and I was raised here until I went on to be an adult.
Wow. I definitely didn't know that. So the core of who you raised you was your grandmother. Okay.
Grandparents.
Okay. So tell me like how did that experience kind of shape you? You like 16-year-old parents. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, even just living with my grandparents, like it's like one of those houses where it's like all these people running in and out and around and family members and Sunday meals and you have something somewhere and then it's missing and you're like, who took my, so it's definitely survivor of the fittest type of environment. But it definitely made me super resilient and who I am today.
So like when you say like super resilient, like what would you what would you say? Like how is being resilient for you? Like what does that look like?
Okay. So there's levels to it, I think.
That's what I was like, because I know everybody has their own what that looks like. And I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing that, but like what does your resilience look like?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's sorry.
I know,
that's me because I was used to like
I am too, girl. I'm trying to. You're good. She had to switch her. The chair was like she's making a noise with her, making a whole concert over here.
It sounded like a watchtower. I'm like, what is that? Oh, that's me. Sorry.
I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'll just let you talk and then.
And so resilience to me, it just looks like, no matter what life throws at you, what challenges you face, you just endure and you go through it. And you it's not that it's not easy. It's not that you won't cry about it. It won't be that you're not depressed. But by the grace of God, you get up every day and keep going forward. So
yes, I can totally agree with that as well. And like I said, I think like you said, like there's levels to resilience. So even, just sharing that is like, that's very true. Like being able to pretty much get up and keep pushing through the obstacles you face. Like I know quite a few people that have been raised by their grandparents. And I do feel like there's like a different dynamic when you are raised by your grandparents. Actually, my dad was pretty much raised he had my grandma, but like a lot of times he was with my grandma. So like, tell me like what that experience was like and how maybe you feel like that has shaped you even till who you've become. Yeah.
So because I was super ambitious and like went on my own path and journey and like, I'll be the cousin or sister or whatever to have kids later in life. I had the luxury of like being like one of those like new age like women that's like you don't have to cook and you don't like you can eat out and it's not no problem about it.
Luxurious.
Right, but deep down up in there I was raised seeing my grandma cooked meals for the family and that was a labor of love and I look forward to being able to do that for my family one day and like my children one day and just even like I think I'm like a part of a dying breed because I have that old school fabric of my being. Like, it's like the morals, the decision making, the way you like handle people that do you dirty. Like all of those things have been ingrained in me from being raised by my grandparents.
And I think those are beautiful things. I know that, and I feel like I have a lot of those same morals as well. And I know mine comes from probably being in like a family who's, in the church and things like that. And so like you saying that, like it is almost a dying breed,
unfortunately.
And I was just talking to somebody recently. I was just like, I miss kind of those things like that kind of labor of love and that those connections and those feelings you get from having those type of qualities and believing in those type of way of living. So it's like
genuine, unconditional love.
Yes, like unconditional love. I think that we do struggle with that unconditional love because everybody kind of wants to be right. So and with some good reason and stuff like that, but yeah, that genuine love, that
forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Like let's talk about that. And even I'm sorry, I guess it's assumed, but it's not assumed for your population and your audience. So I'll give the context of I was raised in the church as well. So I have that foundational piece like you. Yeah. And so, that definitely carves out like why we show up and how we show up the way we do.
Yeah. So I know that I've had quite a few different people that were raised in the church, and everybody has their own views of being raised in the church and their own feelings and their own experiences. But like, tell me what like that was like for you. Because I like people know, like I love going to church. I love the Lord. Like, I'm learning him for me, but like, I know that is a hot topic in our world today, like that faith and that relationship versus religion, all those things. So like, tell me that experience for you. Even now you have made to worship on your shirt. So it's obvious you are still, very like strong in your faith and things like that. But like, take me through that journey.
Girl, you about to open Pandora's?
I mean, listen, if you don't want to go there, we don't have to. You can make it short and sweet, whatever you want to share.
Yeah. So, you're raised in the church, and as a child, you're still just trying to understand what church is. As you become a teenager, you start to be more rebellious and you don't want to go to church because you're like, why do I have to be here? Like, this is crazy, And then for me, I went off to college and I went to IUP. I wilded out, okay? In all of the areas that you could think of. Sis was lit for day one, okay? And, it's part of my story. I used to be like, what is the word? I used to feel some type of way, like condemnation about it and like guilty and like ashamed. But now I embrace that part of my journey because now I can say that even in all of that, somehow God kept me, you know, and he protected me and made sure that I was in my right mind and that I didn't, anything bad really happened to me, nothing like that. And so many people don't have that same testimony going through college and having blacking out drunk nights and like all kind of craziness. So I'm just thankful for that. His grace was on me in those moments. And then actually, when I was in college, I like wowed out for like about a year or so. And then I started singing in the choir in this college, like church, and I, had that moment. But it was just like, I guess I realized like when I was trying to be better than, what I was subject to at that time. But when I looked around at the people that was singing in the choir and quote unquote God-fearing students, I was like, y'all just as bad as the other people. Like, what? This don't make sense. This is not, I can't reconcile this. And so, I just kind of had a huge, long, lukewarm season. And so for anyone who's not, aware of what lukewarm means, it's by the church standards, it's like you're halfway in the church, halfway in the world. And I think that I just was so wayward. The Bible talks about like if you're like basically like if you are not anchored in Christ and in God, that you can just a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Yeah. Yep. So it's just like, you know, that's kind of where I was. And unfortunately, I experienced that for most of my 20s. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I was out of a bad relationship. I was in Erie. Mm-hmm. Crazy relationship, like high speed police chase, crazy relationship. And
yeah, I got my own stories there.
Like life on the line. And so I had to make a decision. And in that relationship, I'll share this. In that relationship, I was so like torn. Because I knew that I was deserving of love, but because of like some of the things I've experienced earlier in life, I had dealt with like home and abandonment issues and things like that, rejection. So I had this person who quote unquote said they loved me, and like I'm in a relationship and I'm trying to make it work, and I'm trying to understand like what's enough to deal with and not to deal with. We had just got past a domestic violence dispute where I had basically told the courts that I lied about when there was physical evidence when the police came. But I said I lied just to drop the charges, right? But then I had that moment with him and I was just like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. Of course, he sat on the floor all light skinned and crying. And I was just like and crying. And I'm just like, well, you know. Yeah. And so but I remember, you know, we were going through these different things, and I was in the bathroom one day at my apartment, and I prayed to God. I was like, God, because I'm like thinking about, I'm so forward thinking. I'm like spending the rest of my life with this person, like maybe have a child, like, you know. And I was just like, God, I need you to show me if this person is for me. Like, I need you to show me in a big way, because you know I don't pay attention to your subtle signs. Literally, this is the conversation.
Like stop sign said, there's a stop sign. You like, I need something that I can understand.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't pay attention to your set of signs. Please just show me. And not even 24 hours later is when we went on that high speed police chase.
Wow.
He was driving. I was in the passenger seat.
Wow.
Car crashed, he ran out, just all these things.
Oh my goodness.
I've never been in trouble in my life. Like, I never, like, I'm a good girl. Like, I've always, and so to go through that, I was just at a crossroads, and something in me, which was the Holy Spirit, was like, you know, you deserve better, and I have better for you. You just have to believe. And so I made a decision that I was going to move to Charlotte. 3 months later, I started packing and selling everything out of my apartment. And I drove down to Charlotte with one carload, came back and worked for that last 2 weeks. Packed up that last carload, went to Charlotte, and never looked back.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many years ago was that?
So it's so funny because I'm literally to the day 8 years.
Well, happy 8-year anniversary of leaving and starting a new life.
I know, but you know.
So, wow. So as of today.
So it was the end of July.
Okay.
And I it was between the 24th or the 28th.
Wow.
So it's like right at the cusp of like, ain't that crazy?
Yes.
And 8 is the number of new beginnings.
New beginnings.
So there are things happening in my life that are like completely out of my control, and I'm just like, okay, what is this gonna be? You know, I don't know. So
that's wow. First of all, thank you for sharing and being so transparent and open about that, which is what Divinely Crowned Conversations is all about. But like, even just going to where you were like, I was in my bathroom praying, like, God, send me a big sign. And when you ask him to do something,
they say, ask, you shall receive. Knock, and the door will be
receive. And you talking about, you know, you had this domestic violence kind of situation where you end up lying to keep this relationship. So that kind of triggered, because I know that nowadays we talk like people, somebody was just posting, I saw a meme like, can we stop making toxicity in relationships normal and things like that? And I want that to stop being normal. I don't know where that came from, where it's been highlighted, but like, what would you share with someone who might be in a similar situation as you or what you've been through, to kind of help them through maybe what they might be going through right now when it comes to that experience?
Yeah, I think it's hard to see beyond your circumstances. It's hard to even think of life beyond this person that you think you love, right? That you believe that you deserve this level of love. And you have to separate yourself. I think that's the first step, is like being out of that toxic environment, like moving, whether it's just like a month away or like, you know, like whatever you can do, because I know a lot of people have kids and things like that, but just, you have to separate yourself. Like, if you have block, change the number, delete all your social media. And that sounds extreme.
It sounds extreme,
but for your sanity and for your peace, you know, like, and then after that, I think you just have to seek God. Like, God has the most purest form of love. And he will wrap his arms around you and just really just console you and help you to see what he sees, which, you know, understanding like, you don't deserve this. You're better than this. Like, even if you have to be alone, some people just don't want to be alone. They don't want to sit with themselves, them thoughts, their traumas. They don't want to do the work. Doing the work is hard.
It is very hard.
So much.
It takes a strong, and I tell people that it does. It takes a strong person to want to heal, because the healing journey is not an easy one, but it's worth it. Like I've even realized, like, wow, this is hard, but look how far you've come. Look how great things have been. And even though you've had, like you said, people are afraid to sit with themselves. And I just had this conversation with somebody too about just like, people are scared to know exactly who they are. Like we through all the traumas and things we've been through, it's almost like, oh my God, who am I? Like, and how you said sitting with yourself is like, it's not always easy. It's kind of easy. It's easier to just hold on to that hurt and sit with it. And I know I've been transparent quite a bit about just my experience with being in similar situations. I mean, I ain't never been in a high-speed chase, but I've been in other things that I'm like, I'm a good girl. I didn't see this growing up. Like, what is happening? But yeah, you're right. Being able to like take those chances of maybe cutting off social media and cutting those ties, and I always tell people, like, get your community. So like, speaking of getting your community, did you feel like you had anybody at that time where you can lean on through this process?
Honestly, no. It just, and I think sometimes God requires us to be in those seasons of solitude and isolation, because he wants us to only lean on him. And so that he can do the things that only he can do and heal the parts that only he can heal. And so kind of what it looked like, Charlotte was my healing journey. Because I've completely transformed into a whole different person. That's like, beautiful. I was in Erie, turning up, lit at the bar, like, you know, ready to fight whoever that got wrong.
Listen,
like,
how sweet her voice is, and she ready to fight people.
Girl, like lining up baby mamas. Like, I done had all of those experiences, and I'm just like shaking my head.
Listen, girl. You are the definition of you've been delivered. Okay.
Delivered and set free. Yes. But Charlotte was like the beginning of my healing journey. So, you know, when I moved to Charlotte, I didn't have much family, but I went to college and didn't know anyone. 4 years later, you know, a whole bunch of people from Erie and then make your own friends and all these things. So I was never like fearful of like going. I just knew I had to go. And it started out as just, you know, a couple of people, and just, you know, over time you start building friendships, and you find out that you have other family members in the area and things like that. But finding a church home, which it found me, is kind of like the beginning of my healing journey. And so
a good solid church home is everything. We went to South Carolina in April. My best friend and I have been talking about this consistently. Like, I will move for a church, okay? Because that church was everything. We went to Travis Green's church.
Oh, okay.
his wife had a conference and it was amazing. So for you to say like, that church found you, it's like, I know, like church family to me is, we grew up in church, and I feel like regardless of whatever the beliefs, but those were the times where you made your family, your connections, and it was a fun experience. I have Latoya in the comments. She waved and put the crowns. Hey, sister, she'll be on in a few weeks. But yeah, so you talk about, so faith is obviously a really big thing for you, and having those connections. And so when you moved to Charlotte, like take me through that journey.
Well, I moved. I did not have a savings.
Oh.
I did not have a job lined up.
Wow.
I just had my stuff.
Wow.
And my mom, she lived like 45 minutes outside of Charlotte.
Okay.
So I started with her and living there, but ended up working part-time. So when I left Erie, I made up in my mind that I was leaving the medical field too, because I did like all of the behavioral health.
You were about to be doctor.
And the lakeshore, about to be a doctor, everything. I was done. Nope, none of it.
God.
Don't want it. And so, but my first job was still medical. It was working with children, troubled youth. When I tell you, these children was like, I seen 8-year-old girls fighting on the playground like grown women, cussing each other out. Like, it was like, where am I at? And they all got Southern accents. Like, this is crazy. Where am I at?
You can see a little bit of yourself, because you talking about some, you was up here beating up people. I have Darius in the comments. He said, hey, cousin. Hey, sis,
cousin. Yeah, like, I'm like, these kids, how you know how to cuss like that?
Oh, my God.
So I was working part-time and commuting an hour and a half because traffic was like, I was working third shift. So I would get off at like 8 a.m, and that's like rush hour traffic. Or I'd work during the day and get off at 5 because they had like a school program. So I was like falling asleep at the wheel.
Oh my God.
Driving back and forth.
That's like a huge culture shock in itself, because like Erie, we can get anywhere in 10 seconds, literally, compared to like big cities. So that was probably a huge culture shock. Oh,
seeing a whole bunch of Black people was a culture shock.
That too.
I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many Black people everywhere. Like, I swear it was a culture shock. I was just like, not the Black people at the banks, at the hospitals, at the fast food restaurants, it just was everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was commuting, working part-time, didn't have a savings, bills getting behind. But long story short, ended up working for a company and working for another company and working for a whole bunch of other companies. I wasn't afraid to quit a job.
Listen,
okay?
I just was telling somebody, I'm like, I love our generation, because growing up, I feel like it was like, they want you to stay on your resume. They want you to stay at a job for so many years. And now we're like, no, this doesn't serve me. We're going on to the next. It's bigger and better every day.
I think sometimes that people be going overboard with it. Like, you got to have a little bit of work ethic, and you got to stay, sis, if you really trying to get to it.
Don't quit your job every other month. Like,
exactly.
Give it some time. It might get better.
Yeah, but I worked a whole bunch of different jobs. I took the time to like really think about what I wanted to do. So like even thinking about like why I chose not to be a doctor. I was in my junior year of college. And when I was in 8th grade is when I made a decision I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I'm going to do everything from now until, to be on the right track. I don't want to be one of those students that in their junior year, they changed their major. Only to be one of those students in their junior year.
Okay, tell God your plans and he'll laugh at them.
Yeah, but I was just like, I had a moment with myself, and I think that is so healthy, and like a crucial part of transformation is like self-reflection and talking to yourself and like really being honest, right? And I was just like, haven't been raised the way I haven't seen how my grandma is present and cooking meals, and it was just like, I do not want to have to compromise or choose between my career and my children and my family. Wow. And I'm like 21.
Hey, I was going to say, what year were you?
I was in my junior college.
Okay, fair enough. had my first child at about 21, 22.
So that, but I was just like, I just really don't want to do that because I had seen so many women doctors because I had worked for so many doctors, especially working at St. Vincent. I was in the doctor's office pool. So I like worked around the city. I saw so many women like getting divorced. Yeah. Or like children coming in and you could just see resentment in their eyes, and it's just like, just like women just have to compromise on so many levels. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. So it was just
your
like
junior year. You literally had one. Well, how many years is a doc?
It would have been one more year until med school.
Okay.
But you have to think 8th grade, all the way up until this point, the whole family was like, she gonna be the first doctor in the family.
So how was that in itself, even telling your family? Like, you reminded me of Travis Green, who I talked about. His wife was a dentist. She was like big, like I guess that's her family is all medical. And she decided, I'm going to quit and go into ministry. And the family was like, what? So like, what was your family's response with them knowing, like you said, since 8th grade, you're going to be a doctor. We was about to get this money.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think my family wasn't too hard on me. I think they gave me the space to like change my mind, even though they didn't understand it. And sometimes you would still get the people, and I still to this day get people be like, you sure you don't want to be a doctor? like listen here. I'm like, I done let that go a long time ago, okay? But yeah, they really gave me the permission to like, and I was probably one of the first in, because I was the oldest children, like on that straight path. Yeah. Like, some of my cousins and siblings or whatever, like they had children younger. Like, so, college may not have been their first priority or like trying to like do it a certain way. And so, but they were okay. And I was okay too. And I just was like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? Yeah. I was going to say, so what did you decide to do after that? So basically I just was like a string of jobs in Erie. You're limited, unfortunately, with the opportunities. And so most people, and this is not knocking anyone because a whole bunch of lovely, beautiful women just graduated with their RN. Yeah. But it's like being a nurse is kind of the limit or the cap. Maybe nurse practitioner, but an RN suffices with enough income and blah, blah, blah to make a good living and take care of your family in Erie. And so I had worked at the Barber Center in like Lakeshore and I kind of went to like the behavioral health side of things. And at the Barber Center, there was an HR job that was open. And I went for it and ended up getting it. So I went from being a direct support professional to working in HR because this was post-college. This was after college. Wow, I had my college degree. I just finished it out.
So where did you go to college?
IUP.
Okay, so you were still in PA. Okay.
Yeah. And then I came back home. And I was so far along that I still had biology and chemistry minors. But I was medical field anyways, but in my experience, so I just went working at the Barber Center, working at Perseus House, one job full-time, one job part-time, just trying to make it. And there was an HR opening. That was my first introduction to HR. Wow. And I was killing it. Like, I'm a hard worker. I've been working since 16. I've been, I worked at JCPenney. I forgot you worked there too. That was my first job. I work with Mickey. Your mom, yes. I love Annalie, yes. And
shout out to my mama. She the one to ring.
Yeah. And so, so I went into HR there. But unfortunately, that was when I was trying to figure out like what I was going to do career-wise. And I told them I was going to nursing school. Fun fact, if you're working in a job and you're not sure if you're going to do a thing, don't tell your job that you're going to do a thing because they're going to hold you to it. St. Vincent did the same thing. Like, oh, well, I thought you were going to nursing school. But then I got accepted to nursing school, but I couldn't pay for it. Yeah. So no, I have to work. Like, give me a full-time position. But they was like, nah, like holding out on me. And I'm just like, So then I went to be a group home manager for like 4 months. And it was the worst 4 months of my life because it was at the same time that all those things were happening with my relationship. Yeah.
So and that's like trauma on top of trauma because group home is a lot. A lot.
Could you imagine renting a group home for $13-14 an hour? Like,
yeah. Yeah, that sounds great. No, I'm playing. But no, and let me not say that, because there are people that are called to do that. And I know these group homes need people that are called to do that. Just like people are called to be in nursing, and I am not one of them. You talked about I remember my mom would be like, the medical field is like where the money's at. So I'm like, I am the most queasy person, like to the point where my mom's like, I still don't know how you had 2 kids. But either way, I'm like, well, okay, I'm gonna be a dentist or an orthodontist. That was like way young. And then I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I want to be Oprah and I want to be a teacher, like all the things. So I've always switched things. So
yeah, so that was like my introduction to HR. So fast forward to Charlotte and saying I'm done with the medical field. I worked a few different jobs, like a call center, and like I was serving a lot and things like that. That's where Ray came from. We can go back to that in a minute.
Yes. Okay.
But yeah, so then I got the opportunity to like quit my job, and I just really did it. It wasn't an opportunity. Yeah. I was like, God, when you pull up to your job and you got to work at 8:00 and you get there at 8:00 in the morning and you don't want to get out your car because you're just miserable at work, it's time to go. It's time.
Maybe that's a message for somebody. If you're feeling like that, it might be time to go.
It's time to go.
Your confirmation, okay?
Yeah, so I quit my job. And I was like, I don't know what's about to happen, but God, you got me, right? And then I ended up doing like fundraising, which is like knocking door to door, asking for money.
That sounds. Listen, you got to get it how you live it. You got to get it out the mud.
Not knocking door to door, asking for money. Like, oh my gosh, it was like an ex-convict guy who trained me on that job. Like, he was nice, whatever.
What were you fundraising for?
For like a children's foundation or something.
So you're talking about because it's like now I'm hearing the kids thing. Like, was that ever like a desire for you to work for or with kids?
No,
it just so
and
happened.
I worked at a daycare in Erie.
Oh my god!
But it just happened. Okay. Those things just come. You just
have a nurturing spirit.
Yeah. So, but that's not my preference at all. So I did the fundraising, and then I even like Ubered for like a month. And I was like falling asleep behind the Uber wheel.
Oh my goodness, girl.
and it was so crazy. Right when I was about to do like 10-hour days and like, Uber is not safe for women. Let me tell you.
Because you were Ubering, not Uber Eating. You were Ubering.
Ubering.
Yeah,
And it was like right around the time that girl in California was like found or something, got killed. And so I call myself thinking I'm about to rev it up and be doing 10, 15-hour days just for like $70 and wear and tear on my car. And then I get a letter from Uber and it's like, we're sorry, but we have to revoke your Uber account. Because no, it was nothing but God. He stopped it because I was going too far and trying to like take it into my own hands and make a living, in the interim. And I had like a summary offense from fighting like a long time ago. That I didn't even know it was on my record. And I have been getting jobs this whole time. Like, it was just like, like when it was drunk nights at the bar and then I got took to a holding cell. And then this sounds so bad.
But wait, can I just say the amount of people I've run into that have had those nights? I'm
just like, one.
But have had any experience. And people like, oh, you never had that? I'm like, no, I never. But it's like more common than I realized. So.
Yes, I paid a fine and then it was like a guilty plea, but it was just a summary something. But because Uber is like people facing, they cut it off. Lyft didn't even approve me and I didn't understand why. But it definitely was God like intervening because I was getting into dangerous territory.
I just was all these things are popping. I just was reading how they said like what you wonder why like cabs had the plexiglass, like y'all, like Uber, you need to be having those things too, or like providing maybe people with that. Like you got to put this in the back. I don't know. Measure out their cars and send them out to the people. Because Uber can be. I would do Uber Eats. I feel like that might be, but Uber for women,
it's bad. Like a man sitting behind you and anything could happen.
You don't know what's. Shoot. Well, thank God that he protected you.
So I wanted to get back into HR and I couldn't because I didn't have enough experience. I only had that year and some change. When you work a job, if you trying to get into a new field, you need at least like couple years of experience, and I had different jobs all over the place. All of my jobs is on my resume. So I ended up getting an opportunity just coming to me to work for Walmart corporate.
Okay.
God sent that, and that was HR, and I've been on that little HR track ever since.
So you're still there now?
No.
Okay.
That's a whole other thing. I could go all day with you. I got so many stories. Like, it just, God's goodness.
Listen, I love, but that's part of the journey is this every stop. So you talked about your name is something big to you. I love my name. Funny story. I used to want to change my name when I grew up. I was like, there's no Divina. Like, I think I posted this somewhere. I'm like, you can't find Divina on key change, all these things. I was going to change my name. Now I love it. But you go by DivinelyCROWN'D, but you also go by now Raye Shurice. And you said this is kind of a big thing for you. So take me through that journey and that evolution of Raye Shurice.
Yeah, it's kind of like Bernice Burgos.
Okay.
Raye Shurice.
You're so funny.
Black China.
Yeah.
But sorry, those are bad references.
Technically, I go by Miss Divine, so I can understand. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So really, it's just the Raye part. Like, it kind of took on its own life in Charlotte. Basically, I was serving for quite a few years, like a side job. And I was working at one of my roles were like in a like very expensive country club. So it's like the elite white people in Charlotte basically go to country clubs. Country clubs are huge in the South. And so it's basically like a golf course and a restaurant and, you know, like tennis courts and like all of these things for like the family to come and like, you know, so they sign up for the country club or whatever. And then there's a restaurant. So I served and like bartended. And dealing with people of the different races and the name pronunciation issues, I was like, we're not about to do this. I'm not about to be going through this crap. So I'm like, call me Raye. And it just took on its own little, started out as R-A-Y because that's how it's spelled in DivinelyCROWN'D.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, it looks too manly. And people are always asking me like, you'd be surprised how many times people say, I say my name is Raye. They say, how do you spell that? You know, it's like, okay. So I put an E at the end to make it like feminine, you know. But Shurice is my middle name. So DivinelyCROWN'D Shurice is really my name, but Raye Shurice is how it evolved.
Evolution. So I do want to talk about that because I know that I've struggled with people with the name thing. And I remember one time somebody was like, why do you guys name yourselves, like your kids that and stuff like that? But like, did that ever have an effect on you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. First off, I think my mom spelled my name wrong. Let's start there. But God bless her. She was only 16 at the time. You know.
You're right.
But if you would have at least just put an A in front of the U, then it would have been Da, like daughter. That's it. But because it's DUJERAY, it looks like DuJuray or DuJuray. Yeah. And that's what I got all my life, my whole entire life. I always have to.
Do you let people, you correct everybody every time?
No, I stopped correcting people middle school.
I used to feel like, okay, it's okay. And then I got older. I'm like, no, you're going to say my name right. And you can remember it too. It's Divina. And then I get my sister too, is Divana. So that's a whole thing too. But it's like, well, no, that's my sister, but I'm Divina. Like, so, but I think there's so much importance in our names. And like when people don't take the time to know them or like make it a big deal of like, you were born with this name, like put some respect on my name.
Yeah, I had a high school teacher. And he was so mad at me because by the senior year, he was like, why didn't you tell me I was pronouncing your name wrong this whole time? Another teacher just corrected me. I'm like, I don't know. But I do feel how you feel now because depending on like where you know me from, I'll either go by DivinelyCROWN'D or Raye. So like professional settings, they always get your government, right? So my day job, everyone calls me DivinelyCROWN'D. And I put a phonetic spelling on my Zoom. So like, if you don't know how to pronounce it, you will because this is the phonetic spelling of it. But then, you know, I give people permission, like Raye, if it's so hard for you to say DivinelyCROWN'D, Raye, and that's fine too.
No, I hear you. And sometimes it's like, is it worth the stress? But that's something in my older years, and even my daughter. My daughter she's Ramaya. Ramia, I'm like, Ramaya. And please, like, I tell her, she'll correct you. Like, this, it's Ramaya, okay?
Do you think it's spelled how it sounds?
I think I should have put the apostrophe, like R-A apostrophe M-I-Y-A-H, but I put it all together and I just capitalized the M. So maybe that would have helped a little bit. Like, no.
People could just either get it right or get it wrong.
I know, because they call me Divina, Divinia, like, it's Divina. So it is what it is. But I always wonder when people, like, have those issues, because it's the name, there's so much.
Yeah.
So because you're from Erie and you've moved, I always like to ask people that have moved, like, what is your maybe advice on even people that are maybe thinking about moving, things like, or might have moved and want to come back? Like, what is some advice you would give them?
Yeah. So when it came to like transformation and like really becoming a new person and a healed person and a better version of myself, leaving was essential. I had to leave to be this next version of who God wanted me to be and to go through all of the things I had went through. But I think when people want to leave, they overthink it. Just like they want to start a business, just like they want to lose weight. Like, keep it simple.
Overthink yourself for months and you still in the same place. You could have been.
Yeah, like my pastor said, keep it simple, saints. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
And so it's like, just do it. You don't have to have it. Lord. And I've struggled with that myself. I'm still struggling with it because this could lose a couple pounds now. But I'm just
listen. I know.
But I'm like, you know what? This is the body I got now. I'm gonna be all right with it. But it's gonna be, it's gonna be, I change it up all the time.
There you go.
But really just taking the step. It's a faith walk. You know, life is a faith walk, and you really have to do a thing before you see a thing. Like, you have to believe a thing before it's there. Like, and I think that's what moving is. It's just, you know, even when you have children, I know, like, sometimes I think people are paralyzed by their children. Woo! And the fear of like doing it wrong or moving far away or like, and it's like, you know, but there could be better on that other side. You know, what's the worst?
Don't be talking to me.
What's the worst that could happen?
But people know I've been wanting to move since before I had my daughter. I'm like, we're out of here. And then I got pregnant with my son. I'm like, okay, but we're out of here. And now it's almost like you get comfortable, but then it's also, there's that like, okay, this is our security system is here, our family, like, what am I gonna do like without these people in my life? Like, so I can be the first, like, I'd be like, my heart is to move. Like, everybody who knows I want to leave, but it's just that especially when you have kids, even though my kids want to leave. If I said we're moving tomorrow, they'd be ready to pack their bags.
With it. So, okay. Yeah. And I think that's just, you know, trusting God. Like, you trust God and you give God a thing, He'll create another family, another support system, another community to raise your children. So I don't think you should let that stop you. But
if I end up moving next year, y'all gonna thank DivinelyCROWN'D for her encouraging words.
And it's so crazy though, because as you're like trying to move away, I'm thinking about coming back.
Okay, so take me through that, because like I said, the moving back, and I feel like I don't know if this is just our city thing or what, but it's like people shun people for that, or like
for moving back
in that. So take me through that. Like, you're saying, like, I'm trying to move back. Take me through that.
Yeah, so I've gone through that plenty of times, and I've had my friends be like, girl, who cares what people think? Do what's best for you, you know, because I've thought about that maybe at year 5. I was very homesick in Charlotte. So probably by year 2, 3, I was like, I'm ready to come back. Like, I need my grandma's cooking, and I'm like seeing my nieces. I have nieces and nephews now, and I like want to be a part of their lives, and I just feel so like unconnected, right? And I dealt with that, like, what are they going to say if I move back? I'm just going to be just like everyone else that moved back. And, you know, so that I can honestly say that stopped me from moving back. Also, because I was thriving in a whole nother city. And there was no real, in my mind, legitimate reason other than just feeling homesick. And, when you have the resources, you can just come and visit, but you don't have to stay, and that's nice. But as it pertains to like my thought process of thinking about moving back now is just like, my grandparents are getting older. My nieces and nephews are getting older. Like, I'm like, trying to figure out what this next couple chapters of my life look like, as I would love to settle down and like have children and like, and I couldn't imagine being away. And like,
see, now you know why I didn't want to move all the way yet. Yeah. I'm playing. See, okay, I'm staying a little longer. So
See, but it's all about you and where you are and what you want out of life and what your quality of life looks like and what do you want that to be. Because I could easily have kids in Charlotte, right? And have like, but then my sisters won't be a part of the journey and like, so I don't know.
Well, I'm sure.
Listen, I work from home, so I have the flexibility to be living here cheap and be stacking my money.
Listen, and then maybe
get a couple of businesses off the ground. Listen, like,
the sky's the limit. Okay, that's so much. But I loved it, like, you to get your insight on that. Like I said, like you even said, like, what will people think about me and things like that. And I saw another post. It was like, well, people all loud when they leave, and when they come back, they're all quiet.
You right, because I ain't telling nobody.
Well, you heard it here first on the Divinely Crown'd conversation.
You gonna have to see me at the store.
No, you back? Listen, you back. Listen, and that's okay. But like, sometimes people do be a little loud when they leave, and then be back and be like, wait a minute, when you moved back, like 2 years ago, you've been quiet, no wonder.
Let's talk about privacy though, because when I first left Erie, I was that person. Like, Charlotte this, Charlotte that, like, and over as time progressed, as I got older, now I'm like, I don't want to tell nobody nothing. I don't want to tell nobody where I'm at. You will find out that I'm somewhere days after the fact. Like, I don't know why, but like, I don't know if it's because of COVID or like just growing up and maturing, but I'm like such a private person now.
Yeah. And I can definitely hear you on that, because I think I just posted recently. I'm like, I'm realizing how much of an introvert I really am. Like, as I'm getting older, I'm like, yes, I do all these things, but like, I'd rather be by myself, chilling at home, or like with a few close people. So I do feel like it's like, as you're getting older, you realize like the importance of just being more private and not having to share your whole life with everybody. And like you said, COVID, I think for me personally, I feel like COVID exposed a lot of things that it's like, oh, I got to protect myself and I got to keep more private than letting the world know all my stuff. So,
yeah. And it's just like, how do I become an influencer or a content creator? I don't want to talk to these people on social media no more. Like, so God is dealing with me in some areas.
Listen, I am. And so there's such thing as a social introvert. And actually, a friend of mine, Chris, he's like, Davina, he's out here, like he does video, like he does videos and he's around people every day. But he's like, yeah, Davina, I'm a social introvert too. And I think he gave me a book on it. I got to look at it, but. Listen, when you're called to do something, you just got to do it, and then but also take your
office hours.
Like there that part of it's like you can pour out, but like you need that time to recharge. That is so me. So it's like you'll find the balance. Listen, he done got you this far, he'll get you farther.
Exactly.
Okay? So you said you wanted to be a content creator and influencer. So can you share a little bit about that?
Well, it kind of started and then I put it on pause and I wasn't consistent and here, that's where we at.
It'd be like that.
Honestly, okay. It is like my life's mission to do this, like to have these conversations, to encourage others, to get cute and you pray our eyes out and be crying and, like, but to just show up in a way that just makes the most sense and help the most people and like encourage and like that person that feel like they can't even go one more step. Like I want to help those people. Like just one more step, sis. You can do this. Like
and there are people called. I do feel I can definitely. I can relate to that. So I can listen and. When the time is right, it will all fall into
Well, I do have a podcast. It will be coming back out at some point. Don't know when. But there's an Instagram page for it if you want to follow.
Did tag her. I did tag her in so you can follow Ray on there. So with you talking about that kind of brings me into my Divinely Crowned questions. It's always go with the flow, but I always have some questions. And with you talking about, wanting to be an encourager, I always like to ask, because Divinely Crowned is all about self-love and confidence. And I always like to ask, like, what does confidence look like to you?
I have versions of confidence, right? So one version is like boss woman on her stuff. Pencil skirt, cute top, puffy shoulders, pumps, cute bag in her hand, just so like ready to take on the day, handling her business, having conversations, making moves, all that. That's like one version of confidence, right?
Yeah.
Another version of confidence is like resting in God to like know, and I've reached this place. I need to get back to this place. But like, regardless of anything that happens, like there's like this peace. Like every situation, there's no problems. There's just solutions. Like you speak life. If the situation looks dead, you pray over that thing. If you need to, see a change, like you believe in God and you speak it out of your mouth and you speak life and confidence in God is confidence for me.
Yeah, that's good. Like, confidence is God is confidence in me. I do, and I tell people that too. Like with the whole being like this brand and my journey of like self-love and confidence. Like I didn't do this in my own strength. I did this with the Lord and God, and I will never not say that. So I definitely hear you when you say confidence is God, and God is confidence in me. Okay, I love that. That's a word. So another question I always like to ask, on our journeys, we've grown. You done changed your name and all the things, and even the things you've said you've been through in your past. I always like to ask, like, what is something, or what would you tell the younger version of yourself, Daja Raye?
Oh my gosh, what would I tell the younger version? Oh my gosh. So many things, because I was dealing with so many different elements of things, right? Like I was dealing with perfectionism and like having to be the best and having to do everything right and setting the example for my younger siblings and cousins. And so like free yourself from perfectionism.
Ooh, yes.
Like it's okay to make mistakes. The quicker you fall down, the quicker you get back up. I think sometimes like in, how I said I was lukewarm for like most of my 20s, it was because I didn't have the resiliency in my spiritual walk and knowledge of who God was and God and me and having a relationship. But to know like you're going to fall. No one's free from sin. Everyone's going to fall. Like that's why Christ came to save us,
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like, if you could just fall and then turn right back to God.
Yeah.
Like if you could just fall, get back up, and then just try again, like facing him. There were so many times the enemy would like get in my head and guilt and shame, condemnation, and I would just continue on the path, like fall and just keep going that way, And the faster that I like was able to turn back to God, the better things could course correct and be better. So I would tell myself that, let go of the perfectionism, do what makes you, like, what truly brings you joy. Because, we came up in the social media age. And so we could see, like, people relationship goals and being on yachts and all these things. And it looks so great, right? Yeah. And the next thing you know, you see these people commit suicide. Because they're not really happy. Because, sorry to say it, they're not really, painting like, this picture.
Not energy, like, attention is like a whole adrenaline rush. And, like, when... that on social media you can see that, but in behind closed doors what are they looking like?
So really just focusing on that inner joy and that inner peace and that inner you know, everything else will just come from the outside in.
Yeah. I love that. That's good. Well, listen, on this journey you're on, those are great things to remind. And like you said, with the perfectionism, and I actually, that when you said like being the oldest and having all these things, like people looking up to you, and you like, you're the one that can't really make the mistake because you have so many people looking up to you, and being able to remind yourself now like that you don't have to be everything for everyone, and that perfection. And I know so many people who are the oldest struggle with that. I know my daughter, we talk, and I try to like, you know, it's almost hard. Like, it's like, you're the oldest, you should know, but it's like, I also try to tell, it's okay. Like, you can make mistakes. So even as a parent, I'm trying to like be more aware of, don't put that pressure on her because she is the oldest, and talk her through those things as well. So
yeah, because I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, and no one put it there except me. It was the internalized expectation setting, you know. So it's just like,
wow, that's wow. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. So I always like to leave a room. I say the royal mic. One day I'm gonna have like crowns on these mics or something, but like for you to like share or say anything you think like, oh, I wish you would have said that, or share or ask this question. Like, is there anything that you want to say? The mic is yours all the way.
Oh gosh. No, I think that I'm just glad that everything worked out, you know, because we didn't know if this moment was going to happen.
Everything happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason. So I guess I would just speak to my Erie folks, right? Because that's who your population is. It's like, if you want to leave.
No, girl, don't say that, because everybody.
Everybody. Sorry, but you have a large Erie population and following as well.
No, I'm messing.
Yes. It's international, sis. It will be if it ain't, right? Okay.
Speaking.
And so, yeah, Erie people, I love y'all.
Yes.
Like, this is where I was born. I'm not gonna. I mean, I really. Erie be getting on my nerves sometimes.
I feel like that. Erie gets on my nerves, but I love it. Listen,
I love the people in it here, and I just want y'all to be great. I want y'all to feel loved. I want y'all to love on me. I'll be here probably for another couple weeks, unless I relocate back. We'll see. More to come there.
You might see her at Walmart. Just mind your business. That's all.
Mind your business. Mind your business. Yes, but if y'all want to leave, leave.
Yeah.
If you want to come back, come back. It's okay. Like,
yes. Well, DivinelyCROWN'D, I thank you for, you know, being on this podcast. I always like to give my flowers. So I am so proud of this journey you've been on, you know, even just, you know, you inspire me as a woman of God, like in your faith. So just keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to see what's next for you. And everybody be looking out. Make sure you follow her on her social media. I linked it in the description of this show, but I'm also going to put it in the show notes. But yes, thank you for your transparency and your willingness to share your journey. And I hope that it inspires and encourages others who either watch later or listen. Remember, like I said, make sure you go subscribe to Divinely Crowned on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, as well as all the places at this point.
All the places, people.
Just put in Divinely Crowned. But all right, guys, thank you for those who tuned in and watched and commented. And remember, until next time, you are divinely crowned.